to set this up. First, this is mostly secondhand knowledge. I only heard the parts leading up to his departure over Skype because we were talking when she got there. My spouse is in the U.S. military. He always ordered food from the same 3 restaurants. This one female delivery driver was always happy and chipper. She was also a 17-year-old teenager. Also, relevant information. When the military police conduct pat-downs, they are required to have at least one person of the same sex as the one receiving the pat-down there as at least a witness. Even if it takes 30 minutes for a same-sex person to show up, they have to wait and do it when the other arrives. It's illegal on a federal level in the military to conduct those searches without the same sex present. On this particular night, he ordered from the restaurant this girl delivered from. She was really late. Normally, it took at most 15 minutes to get his food, but this night it was around 45 minutes. When she got to his barrack dorm, she was in tears, disheveled, and his food was cold. He knew something was really wrong. He asked her what happened, and she told him the people that were guarding the gate harassed her. She told him one kept saying inappropriate things and asking her for her phone number. He made her extremely uncomfortable. She said when the guy finally got the hint, he took a picture of her driver's license with his phone and made her get out of the car. His partner tore her car apart while he proceeded to give her a pat down. My spouse asked her if they requested female assistance, and she said no. He asked her which gate, and she told him. Now, my spouse was pissed. He knew how old she was, and most of the gate guards were, over 21 at the time at that base. He gave her the base commander's personal cell number, which all the soldiers were given at the time. This was a commander who wanted to be personable, but they all knew not to bother him unless it required his attention. This event did. He told the girl to call him right now and to not wait, since this man had her address and the commander can and would order him to delete the photo, among other things he deserved after harassing a teenager. Now, the revenge. My spouse had a dummy IED, civilian term for IED road side bomb, with trigger remote they used for training earlier that day. The second he shut the door, he put it in an empty duffel bag and put his uniform on. His car also had an expired parking permit, something that was supposed to set off red flags at the gate and pretty much be an automatic search. He put the bag in the seat and drove out of the base and back to the gate she said the guards were at. Sure enough, they were the only 2 at the gate at all. He started recording on his cell to send to the commander later. When he pulled up, they asked him for his ID. He gave it to them. The guard told him to move along, so my spouse asked him why he wasn't being searched. The guy told him there was no reason. So he yelled about how he had more reason to be searched than a teenage delivery driver who didn't want to give her phone number. Then he opened his bag and pushed the remote to make the going off beep. He yelled, asking if there was any reason now, because teenage girls must be way more important than suspicious packages, expired permits, and bombs. After getting his car searched for real IEDs, he sent the video to the commander. The next day, he ordered more food from that restaurant, and she delivered again. He asked if she called the commander, and she said yes. She called as soon as she got in the car. The commander was very upset and concerned. The commander and his wife met her at her home to discuss what happened and to apologize on behalf of the Army and his base. They also assured her the picture was deleted after the data from the phone was transferred off for evidence. She said she did not see either him or his partner at the gate. She thanked my spouse for helping her. My spouse said the look of horror on the guards' faces alone was golden. He was very relieved that the one that did the harassing was put in jail for 30 days for harassing a minor. And, thanks to the cell phone video, failure to perform his duty, which normally would have just been a deduction in pay for a month or 2. We also learned through the grapevine he was transferred within a week after getting out of jail. I think he got the transfer ordered while in jail. His partner was also quickly transferred, but he only got pay deduction for 1 year. Edit. He said to add, there was something about the petty revenge that made his ice-cold food taste the best it had ever been. Also, the owner of the restaurant apparently gave him the second meal on the house with a note on the receipt saying, "Thanks for protecting our best driver." He gave her the money he planned to spend as her tip. For context, I am a very agreeable guy. I am 6'2", 220 pounds, and used to be in the military. I can deal with pain very well and am like the Black Knight from Monty Python. When I was in 6th grade, I jumped off the climbing structure and broke my arm. My parents didn't even know for about a month until they took me to the doctor. They had to break it again and set it. So, back to my story. I worked as an electrician and often had to climb up to fix power lines. I am experienced and my boss likes me. That's until he was replaced by Bob. Bob was a terrible person and bad at his job. One day, we went to fix a power line after a huge storm. He forgot the safety equipment, but he said it was fine to go up because I was experienced. I protested, but he said if I didn't do this, then I was fired, so up I went. After a few minutes, I slipped and broke both legs and fractured one arm. I said I was fine. It was just pain after all, but when I tried walking, my knee folded the wrong way. At the hospital, I was forced to stay for a few weeks, and as soon as I got out, I sued. I think the amount I received was around $30,000. Always ensure safety. This happened when I was 19. I'm 22, female, now. After I graduated high school, my aunt asked me if I wanted to be an au pair. It's basically you go to a country, stay with a host family with monthly allowance in exchange of doing light household chores or babysitting and experience foreign culture with a contract. So I said yes, and I stayed with this nice host where my aunt also stayed a few years ago as an au pair. Since I never actually grew up with my aunt around, I thought she was a really nice person, but boy, I was wrong. She worked in one of the island not far from where I live, and every time she come to this town, where I live, she never gives me a heads up in advance about her coming down. So every time, I have to cancel plans I already have just because she called or texted me last minute, and I have to pick her up from the pier harbor. She took a ferry. I don't like her being here because she also stays in my room, and I don't feel comfortable with her being around, and I don't have privacy. She also doesn't say nice things to me. She always has something to say. One time, I picked her up from the harbor. I canceled with my friends because she texted me last minute. While we're walking, she noticed that I was wearing makeup. She said, disgusted. Now, you're wearing makeup. What are you trying to pull, huh? Get boys' attention. I was stunned and dumbfounded. I told her I don't, and I was just trying some makeup. That night in my room with her on the sofa bed, she didn't stop murmuring that she should have not offered me to come here abroad if I will be just like this, wearing makeup and doing all that bad stuff. That is not the reason why I'm here after all. She also called her friend to tell all of that and shamed me, and I was in the same room with her and heard everything she was saying. By the way, the monthly allowance I received from my host, most of it I sent to my family as financial support. I felt so horrible that time and prayed that she would leave soon. Whenever she is here, I have no freedom. Another time, when she comes down again, she was mad. She said someone told her that I have a boyfriend, which I actually have. Now, I denied it to her a few times, until one time I forgot my phone in my bed while I'm doing chores. Little did I know, she tried to access my phone. A notification from my BF popped up and she saw it. When I got back to my room, she was, mad. She keeps asking who the guy is and that I don't have the right to get a boyfriend because it was her who helped me come abroad and that my sole purpose is to support my family. I reasoned out to her that I do help my family. She snarled at me. Who are you to talk back to me? You don't have any right to do that, because if it's not for me, you wouldn't be where you are today. Then she insisted that I should give her my boyfriend's number to call him and tell him how ungrateful of a niece I am. She never got the number nor was able to talk to him. Fast forward to another time she comes down again. I left Friday night, stayed at my friend's. I left some need-to-be-folded clean laundry in my room because I thought it'll be okay and it was no problem with the host. Little did I know, my aunt went down that weekend. She didn't tell me. She saw the laundry. She was mad. I came home Saturday night with her in my room, sitting on the sofa, mad. The room was upside down. Total mess. My clothes are everywhere. All my drawers are open and all my stuff is scattered around. I felt so nervous and scared. She did not say anything. She dragged me out of the room, out to the front door and locked the door. I kept coming in because I have a spare key to the house. I kept trying to ask her why and what's happening. I didn't get any response. She dragged me out again outside the house, and I kept coming in. This happened a few times until I gave up, called my friend, and told them about what happened. It was also winter, so I'm freezing. I was crying and walking to my friend's house direction when my friend's host intervened and asked for my host number. I gave it to them. My friend's host called my host and talked about calling the police if they don't let me in. After that, my friend's host said I should go back home and it will be okay. I was really scared, but I walked back home. My host and my aunt were talking when I came in, but my host left after I got in through the door. I went to my room with my aunt. I sat on my bed and she shouted at me about how irresponsible, referring to the laundry, I am, and I only think about having fun and screwing around. I kept saying sorry, and I was still respectful to her despite what she did. Then she slapped me. It hurts so bad. I cried, "You deserve that. You ungrateful witch!" I prayed to God that whatever you are praying for will not come true, and that you will be unfortunate for the rest of your life. You are so ungrateful. You are where you are today because of me. If not for me, you and your family would still be in the slums of poverty and have nothing to eat. I kept my head down and cried in silence. I didn't answer back. I am just hurt. From now on, I will not consider you as my niece anymore. From now on, I cut all my ties with you, she added. After she said that, she went silent. I am still crying silently. And yes, with her audacity after everything she did. She stayed and slept in my room. She left the day after. I was hurt and mad. We didn't see each other for like months. 2 months after the incident, my host and I terminated the contract. I found a new host in another city. I'm moving in a month, so I still have weeks before moving, and 2 weeks before I moved, my aunt knew about it. She came down to scold me, probably. But you know what? When I saw her again entering my room, I smiled in the back of my head. She got in the accident and broke her ankles, and she's walking on crutches. And I said again, inside of my head, karma's a witch. And you got rightfully served. She still stayed in my room, but I never glanced at her nor helped her with anything she needed. I heard her groaning in pain and having a hard time doing small things like trying to sit or stand. I don't care anymore. I am not her niece anymore. I have no obligation with her. She deserves it. This happened when I was 19. I am now 22 years old, as I mentioned above. I cut ties with my aunt after I moved to my new host in a different city, so I have not seen her since then and have no plans to. I am now living in a different city and doing much better.